Hello all. In this session, we are going to see how to create a new virtual machine and how to connect to the virtual machine using a firewall instead of using its IP address. Okay, so first we'll be creating a virtual machine, and then we'll be making the IP address of it to be static, and then we'll be using a firewall's IP address to connect to that virtual machine. So let me just explain the steps involved here, or that I'm going to do this in the demo. First, I'll be creating a resource group. Then I'll be creating a virtual network. Then I'll be creating two subnets in this virtual network. Subnet 1 will be for firewall. So please remember the subnet which we are going to create for firewall should be named as AzureFirewallSubnet. It is must actually. The naming convention is followed. Okay. Yeah. Subnet 2, it is for VM, virtual machine. And one thing to remember, as I said, whenever we are going to use firewall to connect to a virtual machine, the IP address should be set to static. By default, the IP address that gets created for a virtual machine, right? It will be as dynamic, but it should be set to static when we are going to use firewall. Okay. Okay. So then, yeah, after creating the virtual machine, then we'll be creating this firewall and use Firewall Manager to set up this DNAT rule, and finally connect to the virtual machine using the firewall's IP address. Okay, so let's just go into the demo. Okay, so first step, I'm going to create a resource group. Okay, region, I'm going to choose West US 3 for demo purpose. Create. Okay, so resource group has got created. So the next step, I have to create virtual network. So since I already used, I can see this in my recent services. If not, you have to search here for first time users have to search here for virtual networks. We type virtual, you will find your virtual networks. Select this and create a new virtual network. Okay, I'm going to assign this resource group we created. Give a proper naming convention. Okay. So automatically it has chosen this region. So I mean, as you know, in Azure, right? Whenever we are choosing a resource group and trying to create a resource underneath it, whatever the region this resource group belongs to, that will be shown here automatically. That's how it is. If you want, of course, I mean, you can change this region, but in this case, I'm going to just stick to this West US 3 IP address. Okay, so I'm going to delete this IP address space, and I'm going to set it as 10.0.0.0/16. Then I'm going to create two subnets. First subnet is for firewall. As I said, the naming convention should be followed. So it should be set as Azure Firewall Subnet. So this is the subnet name of the subnet to be used for firewall. Okay. So the address range, I'm going to give a particular range within this address space, which is 10.0.0.0/24. Okay. I'm going to add this. I'm going to create another subnet. This is for for the VM allocation. I'm going to give this name as maybe S subnet, so SNet -VM. So I'm going to give the address range here as 10.0.0. Yeah, 10.0.0.1/24. Okay, so it is not in the valid block. Sorry, yeah, should give us 1.0. Yeah, because that was already in the range of the existing subnet, right? Okay, I'm adding this. So now we have created two subnets. One is for firewall, other one is for virtual machine. Okay, so I'm going to next security. I'm not going to change anything. Next, review create. Okay, it will take some time for this virtual network to get created. So meanwhile, let it happen in the backend. Let me go to home. Let me create a virtual machine. Okay. So yeah, again, same. If you're used already, it will be in your recent services. Now you can search for virtual machines. You'll be finding it. Create a virtual machine. Create. Selecting Azure virtual machine. Okay. So again, let's come to the deployment window. Okay. So let me. Okay, let's wait. Let's wait for this to complete. Yeah. Okay. Deployment completed. I'm going to virtual machines, create new machine. Okay, resource group, I'm picking the created resource group. Virtual machine name, I'm going to give it as dev-vm1. Okay, so region automatically it has taken West US3. I'm fine with this. So available options, I'm going to go with the default one. Security type is standard. So image, as I have already explained this in my other videos. So image is nothing but choosing your operating system for your virtual machine. So this has a lot of options, which is like a lot of different OS available, like Linux. You can see a lot of OS, right? So I'm going to choose, of course, Windows. So I'm going with Windows Server 2016. Okay, so once you do that, you have the option size. So this size lets you pick your cores like a CPU and your RAM memory size. Okay, I'm just going with the low configuration, just doing a demo. Okay, so here we are going to give the user account and the password. So this is the one. This is the. These are the credentials which we use to log into the virtual machine. So I'm giving us VM admin. I'm setting a password. Okay, so by default, if you see here, the public inbound ports is allowed to use RDP3389. This RDP3389 is a port to be able to connect using a remote desktop connection. But in this case, the idea is to hide this and rather use a firewall to connect to the virtual machine, right? So I'm going to make this as set this as none. Okay. So this is okay. This licensing I'll explain it quickly. So if already you have your on-premise license, you can apply this and you can get some waiver in your actual billing. So that's what Azure Hybrid benefit is. So always when you come across this term Azure Hybrid benefit, it means that Azure lets you to use your on-premise licenses. You can see this in other services like SQL Server or any other database also. So basically, Azure helps you to reduce the billing by letting you use your on-premise license, right? So that's this Azure Hybrid benefit. So it's just for information purpose. Stating that. Okay, I'm going to next disks. Okay, so I'll go with the very standard one, hard disk. So, okay, this delete with VM. So it will delete the disk also when you delete the VM. That's what this option means. So restore, I'm just going to go with, yeah. So this is the main section, networking. So in this, since I have only one virtual network, automatically it has chosen that. So I have to select, of course, see, if you see here, based on the name itself, it says that it is not supported because this is more like, yeah, Azure reserved name, which is only for firewall. So of course, this is the one I'm going to choose. Okay, so again here, public IP, it automatically creates public IP, but we don't want it because we are not going to use it. We are going to use rather firewall to connect to the virtual machine. So I'm setting this as none. Security group, basic, I'm fine with that. Public inbound ports, none, it is also fine. So this is all, I'm just setting this default, going to management option. So I'm disabling the boot diagnostics. Okay. So I'm fine with the rest of the options. I'm going to create this virtual machine. So it will take a few minutes maybe to create. Maybe just to save time, let me pause the recording and I will enable it once it completes. Okay, so the deployment of virtual machine has completed. So let me go to home. let me go to the virtual machine. Let me show you, and of course, as you know, if you try to connect now, the connection will not work. So if you see here, the public IP address itself is not appearing because we had disabled it, right? Okay, fine. So yeah, so whenever we are going to associate a virtual machine to your firewall, we should always disable, not disable, I'm sorry. We should always change the IP address from dynamic to static. Okay. So how this can be done? So when you go to networking, okay, so you'll find something called network interface, or it's called NIC. So this network interface is the one which we can use to change the IP address from dynamic to be static. So I'm going to click on this. So I'm clicking on IP configurations. Yeah, as you can see, it is default dynamic. So I'm going to click on this and change this assignment of IP to be static. And I'm going to save this. Okay, so I have, okay, please remember I have created my virtual machine and I have changed my IP in the network interface from dynamic to be static. Okay. So just going to the steps to see what we have created or we have done so far. Resource group created, VNet created, 2 subnets created, virtual machine created. So the pending step is, next step is firewall creation. Okay, so I'm going to create a firewall now. Okay, let it happen in the backend. Meanwhile, I'll go, okay, I think we have to wait. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me open this in a new tab so that it will be happening in the backend. I can work on the other firewalls. Okay, so again, for every resource or every service, you can just go to the search bar and type it. So I'm typing firewall, getting this firewall. Okay, so I'm going to create firewall. Okay, so I'm going to choose the same resource group, of course, and the firewall name. I'm going to give it as firewall FM VM. So firewall VM. Okay, so region same as other resources, which is West US 3. Okay, West US 3. So availability zone, I'm not worried about that, so I'll go with none. Firewall tier, by default it comes as premium, so let me go with this. Firewall policy, so I should add a new policy here. I'm going to click add new. I'm going to say firewall policy 1. Okay. Okay, so virtual network use existing. So what happens if we didn't create this subnet with the name AzureFirewallSubnet, right? When I'm trying to choose this virtual network itself, it would have errored out. See, if you see closely, we don't have the option of no linking to any other subnet. We only have the option of selecting this virtual network. So what happens? Azure automatically looks for that subnet with naming convention like Azure Firewall Subnet, and it gets associated there. Okay, yeah. So public IP address, choose public IP address. So here it is, yeah, here, I mean, we will not be giving any IP address value, rather we will be giving a string here, like maybe firewall IP giving, okay. Okay, so I'm fine with these options. Tags, preview, create. Okay, validation passed. Creating this firewall. Okay, let this get deployed. Let me see if the IP address is all fine. I think it should be fine. Anyway, let me confirm that. Sorry, I'll close this. So let me confirm that by going to the virtual machines to ensure if the switching of dynamic to static IP has completed. Again, we have to always use this network interface. So we have to go to the networking tab, the networking blade, and then click on the network interface to see this IP address type. Then go to IP configurations. So yeah, so it has got updated to be static. Okay. Now let's go to the firewall tab. So firewall deployment is in progress. So it will also take some time. Let me, just to save your time, let me pause this video and resume once it gets created. Okay, so the deployment of this firewall has completed. So the next step is to create a firewall policy. So now I'm going to click on this go to resource, which will take me to that firewall page. Okay, right. Now I'll have to configure the firewall policy. So I have to use Firewall Manager. Okay. So for doing that, we'll be needing the public IP address of the firewall. So let me copy this IP address of firewall. Copy that. Yeah, copied that. So I'm going to now I'm going to I'm going to this. I have to go to Firewall Manager. Where it is? Let me go here. I can go to resource. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Click on Firewall Manager. So you have to click here. So before this Firewall Manager didn't exist, all the options were available in the firewall itself. Now Azure has created a Firewall Manager on top of the firewall. Yeah. So option keeps changing. So you have to just get custom to it. Yeah. Okay. So here you see a lot of options here, but we are we want is firewall policies. So I'm clicking it here. So here you see, okay, so here you see it automatically it has created a firewall policy 1. Okay, so or if you want you can create it yourself, create Azure firewall policy. But anyway, I'll go with this policy itself. I'm fine with this. Okay, so in this policy there are multiple rules like DNAT rule, network rule, application rule. Like these are the 3 types of rules. Okay, so for setting this setting this virtual machine or any resource that you want to connect to firewall, we have to use DNAT rule. Let's say you want to you want to like work with applications inside your virtual machine, like browser applications or any other application. You have to use application rules. Okay, so in this case it is DNAT rules I'm going to configure. Okay, so add a rule collection. I'm going to name a rule here. I'm going to say okay, firewall VM rule. Okay, so priority. So priority is nothing but it starts from 100 and it goes till 65,000. So if the number is less, it has the highest priority. Okay, so in this case, maybe let me give 1,200. Okay, and rule collection group. Okay, so automatically it has taken DNAT. As I said, right, you find 3 rules, three collection of rules basically. One for DNAT, one for network, one for application. So we want DNAT, which it has chosen automatically. We are fine with that. So I'm going to give you a name here. I'm going to say maybe rule VM connect. So one thing I want to say here, we will be creating a lot of resources in Azure generally. So it's always good to, create a naming standard first. I'm saying in terms of real time, to create a naming standard first and stick to that. So it will be easier for the development team as well as the support team or any team in the future, to get to understand this easily. Yeah. Okay. Right. So source type, it's our IP address. Okay. Source, I'm going to give it as star. Protocol, TCP. Destination port, it is the port number of the virtual machine. I think it is 3. Let me just check that. I'm sorry, I forgot that. So I'm going to virtual missions. I think it is 3389 or 3789. That is the one. Connect. Yeah, 3389. Okay. Okay, so I'm giving this port as 3389. Okay. So destination type is IP address. So in this destination, we'll have to give the IP address of the firewall, which I already have copied. So I'm giving this. So translated address, right? Here I should give the address of the VM. So if you see the address of the VM, you can see here, right, in the overview. So it is 10.0.1.4. Okay. 10.0.1.4. Okay. So here translated port also we have to give the same 3389. Okay. So we can add this rule here. Okay, so this rule is getting added. Okay, so let's just go to the PowerPoint to see the points what we have completed. So we have completed the source group, virtual network, 2 subnets, virtual machine, firewall, and setting DNAT rule using Firewall Manager. So just we have one step pending to connect to the VM using IP address of firewall. Okay, right. I think it is still getting added. So let me just see. Let me see if it has got added. DNAT rule, it is taking some time. Okay, so this is the last step. I'm going to use this firewall IP address to connect to this virtual machine. Okay, so I already have copied the IP address of firewall, so I'm going to just paste that. In the options, I'm going to give my username as, do you remember the username which we configured during VM creation? I'm giving that here. Connect. Okay. Let me just copy the address again. I think. Yeah. I think this is just okay. This is still running. This rule is still running. Okay, so now just now the rule got added. So let me try again. Okay, so because the deployment was running to add that rule, It didn't let me connect. So just now the rule got completed. So I can connect now. So as you can see, I haven't given the IP address of VM. I'm giving this IP address of firewall here to log into this VM. So yeah, so it is taking me inside this virtual machine. Okay, let this connect. Let's use CMD just to see the IP address. Okay, looks like there is some memory issue in the VM, but I hope you got the process right. So there is some issue with the virtual machine basically. But so these are all the steps which we have to follow to create a virtual machine and configure a firewall and use the firewall to connect into the virtual machine. Okay. Hope you like this session. If you think that you learned something from this, please subscribe this video. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.